Hello there. My name is Mark, aka The Canardian, and this is episode 34 of the Holocron Chronicles. I'm joined, as always, by my trusty co-pilot, Charlie Carden. Charlie, how you doing tonight?
Pew, pew, pew! Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Black, black, black has got to be a little bit more of a lightsaber thing because it's Obi-Wan Kenobi week. Or just Kenobi. They're keeping it simple. They're keeping it
Kenobi!
Yes.
So this week we're joined by someone. If you've only listened to Holocron Chronicles and no other Secret Friends show, you're still familiar with our guest because this is Charlie's Secret Friends Unite co-star, my co-op mode co-star, Mr. Todd Oxtra. Todd, thank you for joining us for this very special episode. Hey,
I don't know if this is a trap. Is this an intervention? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm here.
I just wonder how it's going to go with, it's kind of like matter and antimatter. We've got Mr. Anti-Star Wars here as our third chair. So I'm curious what's going to happen. I'm very curious.
We have nonstop heard since the start of this show that Todd is anti-Star Wars. So we're going to get to the bottom of that in a little bit. But first, I want to remind people that they can visit leveluplightsabers.com. There's an affiliate link in the show notes and through all my social channels. Get yourself a lightsaber and kick back to the show a little bit. And also, if you're listening, please rate and subscribe. Join our Discord. Leave a review. If you're rating the show, it really, really helps us out and helps us get seen and heard by more people. And also subscribe to us on YouTube, see our shining, smiling faces, and help us get to 100 subs, because it would be awesome to hit that over on Secret Friends Unite on YouTube. But with all that out of the way, Todd, we always introduce our guests with a little bit of Star Wars introduction story. So how did you first get into Star Wars?
Wow, Mark. I'm a year older than Charlie, as he constantly reminds me of that fact.
Old.
Yes.
Charlie's usually the old man on the show, so this.
I know. This is.
I still have my original hair, mostly.
So yes, I am old school Star Wars. My first Star Wars film I saw was Empire Strikes Back because I was way too young to see A New Hope in theater. I would have been 2 years old. If I saw it, I wouldn't have remembered because I just have been a little baby. So, but I saw Empire Strikes Back in theater, 5 years old. My mind was blown. I loved it. And then I really got into Star Wars because of the toys. They were everywhere. It was the perfect time. I think that's the most toys I own of Star Wars is from Empire Strikes Back, that era. And I actually am packing right now, but if I would have known better, I would have shown you that I still own my original Darth Vader TIE Fighter with the wings that fall off. My friend just fixed it. Has the little noise for shooting.
Oh, yeah.
That still works. And I've got a few original figures. And actually, I do have my Darth Vader case, which I'm going to grab down. Hold on a second.
That's awesome. You have to turn off your wonky weird screen, but he's so proud of it.
Might not be able to see it.
Yeah.
We can see it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, I had both that one and the C-3PO one. One or both of them survived being run over by the Subaru in our driveway in the house I grew up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan.
Wow.
Very durable.
And right now, I will bring out the little medical droid. You want that? I've got a few left.
You pulled that out because it's so fuzzy. I thought that was E.T. for some reason. So I'm like, what is he doing in there? I don't get it.
Oh, we're not talking about E.T. Wasn't he in episode 1?
Yes, they were in the Senate, the little pot of E.T.s.
See? Mm-hmm. I know my stuff now. But yeah, that was really for me. And then obviously moving to Return of the Jedi. And then obviously typically I saw Star Wars at my one of my best friend's house, Wayne Wilcox. His dad bootlegged the VHS copies of, I don't know how he got them.
I had those too. Our copy of Empire, the first 14 minutes were missing. It started, Mark, I've mentioned this before. It started where Vader says, "That's it. That's the system." That's where the movie starts. Because the rest of it was just scrambled Showtime pornography. It was and then the movie comes into focus.
Well, mine didn't have adult entertainment in it, Charlie. But
I don't know what was scrambled, but I guess my young imagination was just making it up. I don't know.
Probably.
Wookiees After Dark.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Star Wars After Dark.
But my friend's dad was a teacher, but somehow he got like the educational discount on like AV equipment. So he had one of those really old school projectors, like the big, like it was as big as a coffee table, and you could put drinks on it if you want. And then he had a screen, so we were watching it on a projector. So it was this 80-inch screen back in the day, but watching the movies. And I would always go back to say I want to watch Empire Strikes Back because it had such cool, just entry points, different visuals, a different feel, and I just really loved seeing that. And of course, then I would want to watch the rest of them. But I mean, really, that's how I continued to see Star Wars. I would go visit my buddy Wayne, and we'd watch Star Wars, and it was just always fun to just watch it and watch it and watch it. So that's how I really got into Star Wars. And then obviously, Charlie and I lived through the great drought. Of hoping for any content, watching the Ewoks and droids cartoons, those bad Ewok movies. I then remember going to Star Tours in high school down in Florida. So I really enjoyed it, and then obviously met Charlie in college. We and our buddy John, we re-engaged on Star Wars again when the Power of the Force figures came out. We would go to Target and search for them. And then we would look for any internet. This is the beginning of the days of the internet too, Mark. We would look for any details on something coming up. And then something very special happened around that time. Oh my goodness. Shadows of the Empire, Mark. This was a Star Wars
of 1996. Oh, yes.
A Star Wars explosion.
We absolutely need to have a Shadows of the Empire episode, Mark, because Mark, you've not really delved, have you? Is that a blind spot for you, or am I misremembering?
I played the game. I never did like anything else.
Well, I read the book, Mark. It's the only Star Wars book I ever read.
I still have it and tried to go through. Like I got a Kindle copy, maybe like 5 years ago. Didn't make it a quarter of the way through. It was just like,
it was the biggest. It was the biggest Star Wars event.
It was everything but a film. It was soundtrack, comic, video game,
toys,
figures. Yeah, it was. Toys, just both play sets and figures. It was crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of where, and then Charlie and I saw special editions together in Grand Rapids, and then my story goes to kind of when Star Wars got a little funky. I loved the Clone Wars cartoon, but I remember going to see Wing Commander, Mark. We talked about this. Mm-hmm. I saw Wing Commander just so I could see a trailer, the first trailer for Episode 1.
Right.
Internet trailers weren't a thing on the internet back then because you didn't have the broadband and there was no YouTube, so that's how you saw it. I saw it and I'm like, wow, I'm so excited for this movie. It's weird, it's interesting. I'm still excited, but I had to go through Wing Commander. And then when I saw Episode 1, well, that's a different story.
So such a different story.
We won't get into your thoughts on the prequels, but I do want to ask your favorite movie. Is it still Empire, or have you seen another one that has topped that?
Return of the Jedi. That is my absolutely favorite movie. I loved it. It was the right age. I was, I guess 8 at the time. And to me, it was the culmination of everything I was so excited about. Luke finally emerging as a Jedi. All of these different characters, a big battle, everything that Empire rolled up to, it delivered in my little kid's mind. I wasn't harshing on the Ewoks. I thought they were cool. I was 8 years old. It was a perfect age to see that movie because nothing bothered me about what happened. And that's, until this day, it just really, I love that movie. I don't care if they change the ending and change the song. I don't care. I still remember how that song goes at the end with the Ewoks.
Yub, nub. Nub, 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 nub.
It's in here. They can't take it away. George Lucas can't take that away from me.
Can't take that away from me.
All right. First off, favorite character?
Luke. And Luke specifically in his Jedi apparel as he shows up to Jabba the Hutt.
Hell yeah. Black suit Luke with a green saber. That is 100%
so
my
awesome.
Star Wars.
Always bet on black.
Yep. So now the question I was just going to ask before I remembered, I wanted to ask your favorite character. If you had force sensitive powers and abilities, would you lean light side or dark side? Do you know yourself well enough?
Charlie could probably pave this off because he always talks about my cold, dead heart. But the dark side, definitely.
Yes. He is Chili, the elf who cannot love. That's from The Simpsons.
I've almost always loved the designs of the bad guys. Transformers, any like G.I. Joe. I mean, those bad guys are so awesome and just so unique versus the good guys are pretty much, it's a guy in a jacket. It's a guy. Then maybe get a Chewbacca eventually, you know.
It's a guy
I just love those.
With the boots and a big belt. All Star Wars hero outfits are boots, belt, jacket. Tell me one that doesn't have that combo.
And really, when you think about it, Chewbacca's just wearing like a belt, and he's not even wearing it as like he's just kind of wearing it over. Like he's just a big hairy naked dude.
It is a sash, and you never really see any practice. He's got like the little clippies or whatever on him, but you never see him like, oh, these are ammo. I got to put them in my face. Right. They are completely superfluous. It is nipples on a ball. It's nothing.
Free balling around the galaxy. It's not super often that we hear someone just instantly accept that they are dark side. A lot of times on the show we have like, oh, I kind of like the dark side, but I think I'd go gray, or I don't want to lean. I love that you just dive straight in. You're just like badass.
Todd's like he's Billie Eilish. He's the bad guy. Duh. Which Todd hates. Duh. Don't say that.
Oh yeah.
Because we do co-op mode together, a video game podcast. For anyone that hasn't listened to that, go check us out. But Todd, I have to ask, what's your favorite Star Wars video game?
Wow, this one's kind of crazy because I played some bad Star Wars games and I played some great ones. And one of mine that I just love to pieces is Force Unleashed.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Witwer, right? Wasn't he the main character?
Absolutely. Not canon, doing its own thing, created a character that I absolutely love to pieces, explored Jedi powers like we've never seen before in a video game, quite honestly, and just really, really well done. And I just love that to pieces. So I just thought that's a culmination of video games being really great, and they use some unique abilities, some of the technology where things falling apart. Yeah, just a great game, really cool view, different side of Darth Vader, a unique story, and I like when Star Wars does that.
Be great to see remakes of that.
Did
they? Yeah. Well, no, we are getting it, aren't we, Mark?
Oh, is that okay? Oh,
we're getting the Wii version though.
That doesn't count.
On Switch.
No, that doesn't count. I'm talking a real next gen remake that looks good and plays and is better than the Wii version on Switch. Which I blocked out of my mind until you just reminded me there. Now, we already mentioned this, but Todd, I want to tackle this directly. Charlie pretty much constantly says that Todd hates Star Wars. If you're mentioned on the show, it's usually that you hate Star Wars or you love to hate Star Wars. Let's get to the bottom of this. How do you feel about Star Wars? Do you really love to hate it? Do you hate it? Is it just an ongoing joke? What's the feeling?
It's funny because everyone has their Star Wars, and I've always said that. It's dependent on when you grew up, what you watch. Like I said, Empire was my first one, but Return of the Jedi was my favorite because I was the right age where it was just hitting those right moments for me. I anticipated the movie. I wanted to see it to build up the hype. It's interesting because I'm at a different age now. I'm 46 years old. I've had so many more experiences, and I've experienced so much more storytelling in different mediums that I've really expanded my horizon, what I love about sci-fi and things like that. And Star Wars, to me, in a way, is Charlie always talked about, comfort food, pizza, things like that. People rewatch the same things over and over because they want to relive those experiences. And I've kind of moved on from that. I don't rewatch things because there's so much more to enjoy. And with Star Wars, I don't get that giddy about little things and cameos as much as I used to, and so much of Star Wars right now feels like it's delving, it's getting deeper, is I guess the best way to say it. It's really building into a lot of these things, connecting and doing things with characters that predominantly have been developed in the last, whenever Clone Wars started, I would say, that's been a huge
2008.
Yeah, Clone Wars and Rebels, I feel like since that era, we've dug so deep into that era that is kind of the overwhelming sense of that Star Wars right now, and that's just not my interest. I like some of it. I like Cad Bane. I thought it was such a cool character. I liked what they did with some of the characters, expanding them, telling more stories. That's the first time we ever got with Star Wars telling more in-depth stories, actually giving characterization, building on relationships. Very cool. We got Ahsoka. We get some really cool characters. Other parts I didn't care too much about it. So in a lot of ways, I still love Star Wars for what it means to me in a certain way, but I don't love all things Star Wars. I've always said I feel like there's more bad Star Wars than there's good Star Wars, just because there's more of it now. And right. I don't have to be precious about Star Wars, because ultimately it's not all going to be good. It's going to be, some of it's going to be directed poorly. Some of it's going to be not great scripts. Sometimes it's not going to be in a medium I care that much about. But I'm always hopeful. And that's what I was talking about. We were just talking about SFU about this. I'm hopeful for where Star Wars goes that's not tied to what we've known. What it can do that's different eras, different threats. Things that are not tied to Empire versus Rebels. I would love it if that's not the scrappy Rebels versus an imposing force. I would love to see the world of Star Wars experiment and do new things. And I'm hoping that's going to come forward. And that's why I want new creators. I don't want just Filoni to be in charge, because I want new voices, more ideas, more things that we haven't experienced before. So I'm really excited about the Acolyte, because that's an era we haven't experienced. We're not going to be fully focused on who you know or what you know. It's going to be more about this is ideas and things that have been hinted about, and they could really tell some unique stories that, even though the characters are probably dead, we could have some things to carry through there that take something and puts us beyond the known, which I really love. And I'm excited to see where Star Wars goes next. Right now, we don't know what's really next with Star Wars, because I think they're still focusing, movies really are where the story goes forward, rather than the TV series, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like maybe that's where they're headed, or maybe that's where they're going to stay. But I would love a TV series that takes us post the sequel trilogy, because that would be fantastic, and build on with those characters.
Yeah, because right now the TV shows, you're right on. Like, the TV shows happen before the Rise of Skywalker. Everything happens even before the prequel or the sequel era is what we're getting. So it would really be nice. I can't wait for the next project, that whether that's the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron, or it's some other project, TV, whatever it is. But yeah, there's something.
Feige. What's the other one? That's there's another one. Taika Waititi is doing a project. I mean, bring those on. Bring them on.
Right.
Yeah, there's a few different things. So okay, well, I get that. I think, we have, obviously, it's a Star Wars show. We have a lot of people who just love Star Wars. I'm one of those people who, I say I love all of Star Wars, but I think I also gravitate towards the things that I love. And you mentioned something there that struck me, was a medium that you don't love. And Charlie and I tried to keep up with High Republic stuff. We tried to do the comics and the novels and young adult novels and everything else. And there are stuff that just either didn't click with me, or was too much to keep up with, or whatever it was. And I don't know if that was medium or the stories they were telling or whatever, because I am interested in that era. But yeah, there is stuff that just hasn't clicked, and we haven't chosen to focus on that. But I suppose there are probably people out there that would listen and be like, what do you mean you haven't kept up with the High Republic novels? Like, you're not a true Star Wars fan. Like, I'm sure there are people who say that about me. So every time Charlie says that about you now, I'll just remember that there's probably someone out there saying that about us too.
And it is interesting you mention that, Mark, because there's a character that people talk about all the time now that has not been in any other mediums except for comics, and that's Aphra. And Dr. Aphra sounds like a really cool character that I know nothing about. I haven't read the comics, and I'm like, I'd be perfectly fine if that character shows up and just does something unique and different, because it's a new character that has a different take. And, and like I said, Mark, there's so much out there. I'd rather watch the best than all. So if someone has examples, like you said, there's probably lists of best Clone Wars, best Rebels. I'm more than willing to give it a try, because I'd rather watch what's great about it versus I just have to watch everything. Life's too short to watch stuff that's okay. I'd rather have the best. So
that's
by all means,
how they get you.
Yes,
it's a 9-part novel series about Lando's fashion choices. You're looking for it.
The Quest for the Cape, Charlie.
I watched the hell out of a Lando fashion show.
Oh my
I'm not gonna lie, like Project Runway Lando edition, like
Project Cloud City Runway.
Sign me up. I don't know. All right, well, let's move on to something we know we're getting rather than what we might get, and that is the Kenobi teaser trailer.
Pew, pew, pew.
Kenobi's coming up. So we're recording this one way earlier than we usually record this episode. So we're recording this on Thursday, March 10th, aka Mario Day. So happy Mario Day to any video game people. But so the Kenobi trailer just came out. So these are our fresh reactions, but by the time people are listening to this, it's going to be out. It's going to be broken down. There's going to be that frame by frame kind of thing. So this is fairly fresh in our minds, but keep in mind that what we're saying, that there may be new stuff. There was a new thing today, the first real image of Darth Vader in this show. It was a still image that was not in the trailer. We heard the breathing at the end of the trailer. So I'm sure over the next week, more stuff's going to come out. But for right now, we're just going to be going on the teaser trailer reactions breakdown. Fellas, how you feeling about what we saw?
This was the sizzle reel to not end sizzle reels, but this was great. This was, what we've had in television thusly with Star Wars has been, with the exception of Luke here and Grogu there, very, very down to earth and ground based. We've had, the Mandalorians with their gadgets and their wacky code. And then we've had bounty hunters and we've had this thing and that thing, but we've not had force wielding, space wizard stuff since, the very end of the film that we're going to be talking about here in a little while when we get into talk about Rogue One. So this is, and of course, things cartoon related notwithstanding, this is our first real glimpse at this full-on culture of the Sith and the Inquisitors. Well, it's really the Inquisitors, and then Kenobi and other aspects of things that have happened during that 19-year period on the little big screen since Solo, which didn't really have anything that was force related, except for what I always felt was kind of a lackluster, why the hell did they do this appearance of Darth Maul at the end. But that's a topic for another time or a previous time. Absolutely spectacular. And again, this was a minute 45, 2 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, super long.
And they really jammed it on in there. You're right that yes, we see Kenobi doing his normal rounds, and I think we even see this in the comic in a flashback of the most recent Marvel Comics run where Obi-Wan is looking over Luke, and he was about this age, and there was an incident where Black Chrysanthemum got his scar because he was, I can't even remember the particulars of the story, but he and Kenobi mix it up, and Kenobi bonked him on the eye. That's why he's got the scar. Happened right around this time because Luke was around that same age. But I just dug everything about it. Inquisitors looking for Jedi. You're getting very grumpy Joel Edgerton as slightly older but not super old. Uncle Owen. Yeah, God, and just the excitement of having the music come back. We got the Duel of the Fates, and we got, oh my God, we got it all. So yeah, this is prime birth of the Empire. Let's, you got Palpy's voice in there. The key to hunting Jedi is patience, because they've been doing it for 10 years, and obviously there's still more out there. So they're working harder, but maybe not smarter, which is how Kenobi probably ends up. Kind of surviving the day. But I loved everything about it. Nothing in there that I would say was completely blow the doors off, like, oh, I didn't really expect that. You would expect that it wouldn't just be Obi-Wan hanging around on Tatooine for 6 or 7 episodes. They were going to have to put him in play in some way, shape, or form. So that's I was totally fired up. Totally fired up.
Todd, what about you?
I really liked it. I mean, the fact that they did bring in the Duel of Fates, that was my favorite part of the prequels, was that whole, that song plus what it delivered was fantastic. It makes sense to bring it back, which is cool. I mean, it's really neat. We are going to see different planets. The one planet, I forget what it's called, but it feels like it's like Shanghai or Hong Kong with the bright lights, the neon, and the dangerous nature of the Inquisitors. I've always liked those characters. I always felt it was someone to balance out the Jedi, because in a way, the Jedi can pretty much push everybody else over. They can, droids, whatever. So it gives them something formidable and unique and mysterious, which again, bad guys are cool. They are cool. I'm curious to see where they go. It's 6 episodes, right? Deborah Chow is directing this. I think she was the best director of the Mandalorian episodes, so I think she'll deliver. And I am curious how they'll pace it. I've had struggles with a lot of recent shows where so much happens in the first 3 episodes where it feels like you've got a lot to deliver and you've got 2 episodes left. I mean, are you going to force everything? I thought Boba Fett actually delivered. I was so worried. I'm like, how are they going to wrap this crap up with 1 episode? And they did, which is great. So I hope they pace it well, kind of good storytelling elements, maybe some standalone elements versus the whole arc. We heard that there's potentially going to be Leia involved in this. We've seen Luke. And my joke, though, I mentioned this to Charlie, I thought the Luke looking like Anakin pod racing was a little too much on the nose. Like I said, Star Wars fans will love it, but I'm like,
I love
that seems very... the littlest amount of effort is often sometimes my least favorite things.
It works, and I think that might be what frustrates me so much is that it really does.
Charlie, it doesn't work for everybody though, because Star Wars fan base is split, and that's 100% true. You guys know that. So it works for some, it doesn't work for others.
Character though, because we see him the first time he's introduced in A New Hope, he's still pretending to fly.
Right.
His
I guess I didn't think of the pod racer. I thought more of flying a plane or something like that would have been more. Would have been more.
Yeah, if you're flying a plane like this, it's a bad scene. So yeah,
but I get it. Just to me, it was just that's so. So dumb. Because I absolutely hated Anakin in episode 1. Bad acting, all these things. I'm not saying anything new. And I just thought, oh God, you're bringing back something that I absolutely appalled. And I'm like, oh, Luke is not that. But I totally, they're trying to bring it together. He's like his father. Totally get it. Low-hanging fruit.
It is admittedly low-hanging fruit, but those are the ABCs of Star Wars. I hate to say it.
Charlie, now you're discounting Star Wars. It's like Star Wars doesn't try and people like it. So I hate that. I would think that you'd say Star Wars is hitting elements, but it's like Star Wars doesn't do anything. People just eat it up. That sounds like you're basically saying the franchise is bankrupt because it doesn't have to do anything. Yes,
Star Wars in some way is the I didn't do it boy. Do.
Mark, I'm trying to defend Star Wars.
To me, this one didn't even at first call back to Anakin. To me, it just reminded me of Luke, even when he's older. Like I said, and when we see him in New Hope, he's still obsessed with being a pilot. He's still
I get that. Yeah,
playing
it's in the
with
blood.
the
toys. It was 100%. It was 100% the goggles and doing the pod racing controls.
Yeah, see, that 100% didn't even click into me until my second watch through, or after kind of watching this a bit. To me, it was just oh yeah, even from a young age, Luke wants to be the best pilot in the galaxy, and then it was kind of afterwards clicked in, oh yeah, just like his dad, right? That's throwbacks to Anakin as a kid, but for me, it was fully fitting into Luke's character of this is the guy that we saw pissed off over power converters and playing with a speeder toy in the basement. So to me that was just Luke. Anyway, that's so we do have John Williams, Duel of the Fates returning. I'm wondering if we've talked about how important that song is in that moment on this show before, and I wonder if there's going to be other moments like that where Obi-Wan is literally dueling for the fate of the galaxy in this, whether it's someone that's going after Luke, someone that's going after Leia. What is the fate of the galaxy in this one? Why are they dueling for the fate, and who's he dueling against? Is it against Vader? Is it against the Inquisitors? We saw a few Inquisitors in this one, a new one, Reva.
Yeah.
We have
the Grand Inquisitor.
We saw the Grand Inquisitor. We saw, was it the fifth brother? I believe was the other shot that we saw. I do have a couple of notes in front of me, but not all of them. So I should have had a bunch open. But there's a few Inquisitors, and we know that there's at least 10 because we've seen the 10th brother. We've seen the straight up through the numbers, whether it's in comics or in Jedi Fallen Order, which is also where we saw the Inquisitorius, which is also featured in this for the first time in live action. I want to say that's a comic, but I think that was the first time we saw it was in Jedi Fallen Order, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I'm really wondering if we could see Cal in this. There's been a couple of things dropped. We saw the BD droid in Boba Fett. We're seeing some throwbacks to the game in this. It's around the right timeline.
Yeah,
he saw
in
the game. He saw a holocron featuring Obi-Wan Kenobi, so he knows Obi-Wan's alive. He might go search him out. Like, if I see Cameron Monaghan,
so I've got a question about that. So we've had other Jedis introduced, some in other series now. Cal, one of them, obviously. And then we've got Rebels and things like that.
Yeah.
Could this? I'm just going to ask a question. Could this be laying the groundwork, Mark? Why we didn't see more Jedi during, A New Hope and beyond? Is this going to bring groundwork that because Obi-Wan put himself out there, Jedi are out there, and they could now be hunted down even worse? Like the remaining. They may not even continue on, right? Maybe
I think they said it in this trailer. It's the Jedi can't help themselves.
You're right. Yeah,
the Jedi
they've got to get out there and fly their freak
want
flag.
To try to save people. They want to try to help people, and that's exactly what we saw again. Throwing back to Jedi Fallen Order, Cal was so good for years, keeping himself underground, not using his powers, disconnecting himself from the Force, but he couldn't help himself. He could have easily let his friend die. Another tragedy in the workplace. He could have let that happen.
Right.
He couldn't help himself. He reached out with the Force. He grabbed his friend, and the Inquisitors came for him instantly.
Do good. Yeah, exactly. They were watching the Jedi social media, Twitter, and they felt it. Yeah.
So that's a theme in this, that they said it right in the trailer. And again, it was like a 2-minute trailer, if that, but they broke it down of, the Jedi can't help themselves. They might hide. They may disconnect themselves. They may go to the far reaches of the galaxy, but the Jedi are going to want to do good, and they can try to hide it, but eventually they're going to break, and that's when we're going to get them. So I think this is going to lay the groundwork for like why the Jedi go missing, and by the time we see A New Hope, why there's so few left. There are theories that we may see Ahsoka in this. We did see some green birds. She usually has her little green owl friend that we see. I don't know. I think that might be kind of I'll call it a green herring for this one.
Ooh, and I think scrolling further down, seeing somebody who's carrying, or you're seeing Kitch at the corner of the DL-44 blaster, which was carried by Han Solo. So, that means he's going to be in it. That's, that's to me kind of a bridge too far. These there's always 1,001 wacky fan theories. I mean, who wasn't going to show up in this is going to be the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett. It's going to be Kira and Han Solo and this and that. Just know it's okay.
Leia.
Well, Leia's going to be in this one, but she'll be young because we already know that's an established plot line. So anyway.
Yep. For the record, I thought that blaster looked more like Kanan Jarrus's. Some people are saying it looks like Kenobi's. I want to be right because I want to see live action Kanan Jarrus.
Yeah, I agree.
He's still alive at this point in time,
and in hiding because there was a canon novel that had to do with he and Hera meeting when they were both freighter pilots or something that was set probably right around this period of time. Wouldn't have been surprising. So it could be.
Yeah,
could be.
We're, like we said, we're going off a 2-minute kind of trailer here.
Right.
For me, the problem with that being Han Solo is what's he doing at this time? Like, he's not that much older than Luke and Leia, is he?
Who? Oh,
Han's like 10 years old, isn't he?
Yeah,
10 years older?
He's 10 years older. Yeah,
10 years older.
Yeah, okay. In Solo, the first part of it we saw was maybe 8 or 9 years post Revenge of the Sith, and then he added 3 years onto that for the remainder of the film, making it still 7 or 8 years before A New Hope. This is pretty much timeline, yeah.
So he'd be. So I guess the right time-ish to maybe be on a different planet and messing around with stuff at that point.
Smuggling.
The timeline fit in. He's smuggling. He's doing some stuff. We could see de-aged Harrison Ford or
I mean, why wouldn't it be? It all depends. But it'd be silly. It'd be silly not to be Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll see. But that's our tinfoil hat theories. Are you guys excited for this one?
Oh yeah. I mean, Obi-Wan without a doubt was the most redeeming part of the prequels for a lot of us old timers who love classic Star Wars. Even though, Obi-Wan was not a huge part of even the original trilogy, but he was really, Ewan McGregor's portrayal of the character is timeless. He got shit done both in the prequels and then certainly in the Clone Wars where he was fleshed out even more. So I've always loved him, and I'm totally engaged. This is going to be certainly a step in the right direction after the book of the Boba Fett of the Mandalorian, not even in my show or whatever, Right.
Todd, you're excited.
I'm very encouraged because ultimately he didn't have much to work with when he was in the movies last time. Script wasn't great, direction wasn't great. I mean, all of those things you can say. Lucas was a great visionary, great special effects artist. He just wasn't a great director. Great directing action scenes, I would say, but directing people, we all know that history. But I
faster
think with
more intense. That was faster and more intense. That's what he did.
But I think with what he's going to have to work with, directors, he's older, he's a better actor now. I think this is going to be really a great showcase for him. Get a lot of gravitas. It's going to be really cool, him dealing with issues. And, Mark, Sean Nias, our friend, has been on co-op mode. He's been out of the world excited about this project in particular. He loves Obi-Wan Kenobi. He feels like Obi-Wan Kenobi is truly what Star Wars is about, more so than anyone else. And I kind of agree with him in a lot of ways that the prequels were his kind of story in a lot of ways around the evidence or all the things happening. So I think this is going to be great. And yes, I'll have to probably grin and bear some fan service stuff, but I'm excited for it.
Guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I think it's going to be some fun fan service stuff. I may be personally so excited that I'm thinking about ordering a kilt just to celebrate Ewan McGregor and my Scottishness. So
I don't remember kilts in Star Wars, Mark. I'm just like blanking on that part.
No, not Star Wars specific. Just Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Just
in general.
Just got me excited for this and him and everything else. So
there is a great kilt place in Frankenmuth, Michigan, which is more over on Todd's side of the state where he's from originally, that I visited a couple of times. They have the great hats and the different stuff. Had some geek themed stuff. I believe there was something Star Wars related there. So if I happen in there, I will. If my travels take me over that way, and my travels take me everywhere in the state, I will send you some pictures. Maybe it'll be something you want.
Perfect. Yeah, I know there's a few stores around here. Obviously, where I live is very Scottish and Irish, so there's a few places around here that I can get kilts from. So I've been looking for a little bit, but I think I'm gonna order one and just have it for lounging about the house.
Excellent,
as you do. So, gentlemen, let's get into the main meat of the show, Rogue One. As we continue our rewatch project chronologically, we just hit something we've mentioned a couple of times. We just finished off Jedi Fallen Order. So the next thing chronologically in our little rewatch project is this one right here. And this movie is one of like people's favorites. People love this one. Todd, you said it was actually, you know what? I'm not even going to put words in your mouth. So tell people what you think about this film.
This is the best directed, best scripted Star Wars thing of all time. Gary Whitta wrote this. He's a great director, a great writer. It's fantastic, does some awesome work. Gareth Edwards is the director, does fantastic work. I don't think it's unquestionable to say someone has done better with Star Wars in regards to what he showed, how he got the people to really bring about different emotions and different elements, and it was just compelling to me. It was a different way that I've seen Star Wars handled which to me is also essentially characters that were all brand new, very limited connection to anything else. And I always say this about this movie: if it did not have the Vader sequence and the Leia sequence, it would still be a great film.
Absolutely.
True. Yeah, you're right. That was and to your point, Todd, the dreaded fan service at the end. And you know, and again, the Vader part of it being, and I'm sure we'll go on to talk a little bit more about this, being something that was the record needle scratch that just brought everything to a halt. Anybody watching that just absolutely blew their mind. I'd like to recreate it. I've memorized all his moves. Chop, chop, chop. I mean, oh my God. Makes you feel like you're a kid. All that gory violence makes you feel like you're a kid again.
The funny thing to me was the first time I saw this movie, I left the theater and I was so blown away by everything. And I talked to my cousin. I think the first person I talked to about this afterwards, because he saw it the same night, and we started texting back and forth. And I was like, "So what'd you think?" And he was like, "Oh man, that Darth Vader scene." And I was like, What about the rest of the movie? Like, that was the very end of it. Like, there was so much else. Did you not watch the rest of it? How are you focusing on that? Like,
right, because it's fan servicey.
It was that fan service.
It's
like
beyond the doubt. Like, and there's so many people that have taken that scene, and I know we're kind of jumping all over the place in your flow here, but we're just wrapping. It was great. We did our whole podcast on the Batman tonight, and I took no notes. I just riffed, which is for our previous ones. I always took notes, but I'm like, I was shooting from the heart, and I've seen this one so many times. But it was. There have been people who have made notes on that Darth Vader scene, saying, "Well, this is what we want. This is what we've always wanted out of Darth Vader since 1977. Not just some dude in a suit lurching around." I mean, if you think about the Death Star lightsaber battle between old Obi-Wan and you had an old guy, and you had this bodybuilder in a suit where he couldn't move, lurching at each other, and that kind of is a lightsaber fight. It wasn't all doing the flips and shit that you saw in the prequels, which was again the most exciting part of like Episode 1 was a Duel of Fates, and then there was the rest of it. For us old timers, because Mark, you and I have had a lot of people on the show who the prequels is their Star Wars, so they just love it, and we've had some people who are even younger who have said, "Oh, the sequels are my Star Wars," and I'm just like, okay. But for us, this film was the spiritual cousin to the OT, in a way that and again the Star Wars stories films. There was this one, and there was Solo, or the Han Solo movie, which we've already talked about. That was didn't end up being a successful. This movie was a success, and then Solo came out, and it was less so because of its mired controversy in the production and the fact that they reshot 80% of it, and it didn't do Star Wars numbers, so the entire concept was abandoned of doing these standalone prequel films, which is fine, because I think we all agree that Star Wars, if it's going to grow and continue to capture attention, needs to move beyond the fan servicey stuff, even though that hasn't happened yet, and somehow they're still making money.
Which is kind of weird to actually think about that leading directly to Kenobi being a series on Disney Plus rather than a movie. Because that was rumored to be a movie. That was in development as a movie. Right. Like, while they were talking about Rogue One, while they were talking about Solo, like that was kind of in the docket for an upcoming film project. And it's been kind of, moved around and
to me, and so was Boba Fett. And to me, thankfully so. Now Boba Fett is not the greatest example, because we all have kind of mixed feelings about how that shook out. But for Kenobi, they're going to take and hopefully make good use of the 6 or 7 episodes to give us a 5.5 hour, 6 hour story. That really fleshes out something, as opposed to a cool guys walk away from explosions, super bang 'em up movie or whatever. Flesh things out a little bit. Where this film really got it right, but it was drawing from established elements. It was an in between quill, I think, is how Todd and I described it, because this movie, Yeah, midquill. Todd and I have been making, SFU since 2014. This came out in 2016, so this was one of our spoiler casts the week that it came out. So yeah, it became a midquill because it was an extension of an existing story, but it was an extension of the first story, and they did it really well and seamlessly so. Like I said, the boldest choice was giving us an entire cast of new characters that everybody died, which I loved. It made it that much more real and made it that much more real. It's really real to me, damn it. I know it sounds like I'm talking about wrestling, but it really made it that much more impactful that not everybody got a happy ending. Yeah, the mission was accomplished, which again, it was a silly mission because you seem like those plans could have been probably dropped into a Google Drive somewhere instead of the whole thing and the whatever and the disc. But it was the 70s. But it really made it impactful that they accomplished their mission, but they all had to die to do it. And that's what war's like. I would imagine. I've never been in one, but that's what it's like in the movies. So they got right.
Yeah, for sure. Todd?
It's really interesting because there's a lot of, call them Star Wars tropes, or just the things that Star Wars does and repeats in their movies that is in this. Didn't drive me nuts, which is kind of nice. Which is becoming a recurring thing now. The sarcastic droid, I guess is the best way to put it, or the sassy droid, which is, it's like every movie now needs a sassy droid. It's kind of like the lay of the land. But K2SO, just I really enjoyed that droid, the take. I think Alan Tudyk, being the voice, really did a lot for me, so loved it. But we've seen that in obviously a lot of other ones. We also then saw the being disguised and going, wearing the costumes, whatever, and going in. I think every Star Wars movie has that now, or in every episode, Star Wars show has it. But it's not an uncommon thing, but it just seems like that is the thing with Star Wars. We've got to get dressed up like the enemy, do the thing to get the thing. So that seems to be a plot point or a trope that seems to be a little overdone in Star Wars. So, but I totally get it. And I was looking here through Metacritic and how they ranked the Star Wars films, and it just kind of cracks me up. Metacritic says this is the 6th best Star Wars film, behind Revenge of the Sith. So and it's also behind, but you know what they rank number 1? A New Hope.
New Hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Episode 8, which is Last Jedi, and then Empire Strikes Back is number 3.
Wow.
It just seems like it seems disconnected from what we've all talked about, right? Because I mean, I don't know if some people have some of their fates, but I thought just because of some of the things they brought in here and some of the acting, one of the things I also wanted to nitpick, our main character in this, I thought it was a little odd that she was essentially given the keys to the kingdom. And basically everybody says, well, don't listen to anybody else. Listen to her. She's brand new. She knows everything. And no, she doesn't. She's the least capable to do this. But to me, that just seemed a little bit, because I really like the character too, but I thought that seemed a little bit, really? We're going to there at that point where she's probably the least likely person to lead people because she has no experience. And you would not do that. I mean, I wouldn't pick the new lieutenant to lead a squadron of people in there because he's plucky and he can make people excited. I mean, it just seemed a little bit okay, that's too much of the Hollywood ending. That to me just didn't feel right, because I don't think she needed to be that for her to still be a successful character, because she was still stretching beyond her means and where she came from. So that was just an odd point. But I mean, other than that, I just can't think of many other things that really stood out to me as a negative point. But man, Ben Mendelsohn, fantastic. Such a good take on a conflicted officer. I mean, just a different feel that we got with Krennic. Obviously, eventually he kind of became a weird character. But I think Ben just did it great. I mean, just kind of middle management, a little frustrated.
Bendo. Yeah, it was the dick swinging contest, I believe, how it was put on our show back in the day between him and Tarkin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was
his ambitions, but not his follow through, maybe.
Right,
or
exactly.
To follow through.
It was basically Omni Consumer Products. It was Dick Jones. That's what it was. Look what ended up happening. So yeah, Tarkin was Dick Jones, and Krennic was was Miguel Ferrer, the other dude. Yeah.
Speaking of, so we mentioned a couple with Krennic, with Jin. What were your favorite characters in this, Todd? Any others stick out to you? K2.
I'm blanking on his name, which is just bad because I know the people you have on here are like they know everybody that can name blah blah. I'm bad with names. It was the force sensitive gentleman.
That was oh shit.
Chirrut?
Yeah, no, Chirrut was the other, was his buddy.
No, Chirrut. I think that Chirrut was the force sensitive. Yeah,
the blind Donnie Yen.
Yeah, Baze Malbus was his buddy with the big gun.
Yeah. Chirrut was just great.
Chirrut, Enwi, I believe was his name. Iwi. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
Really, really dug that character. Thought it was just a unique take. It's the man of faith, and just kind of just going headway and just not even bothering with it, and obviously blind. And I just really, really, really thought that was a cool take on a character.
I love that character specifically for sure, but also what that character means, and I hope they dive down into this in more projects, whether it is another series or something, but like the whole protector of the wills thing of these people who believe in the Force, may be Force sensitive, but aren't quite Jedi, or at this point, is that a way for them to kind of have an underground Jedi academy without actually saying they're Jedi or something? Like it's such an interesting thing to consider and to look into because of what we're going to see in Kenobi of the Inquisitors, and like, how do you get around that? How can you be Force sensitive in a galaxy that Inquisitors are going to come after you? So with his character specifically, it's like, this guy has to have some sort of connection to the Force, being blind and being able to do all the things that he can do and almost have a sense of what's going on everywhere around him. He's tapped into some kind of force or sensitivity that I think is very interesting. And we can talk about the wills and the Force and all that kind of stuff. And they go into that in Clone Wars, and we won't get into it now because I'll go on for another hour. But I think that's a very interesting character. I very much love those two. K2SO, Andor. I've said on the show, I thought he was a cool character, but I don't know what they're going to do with his solo show.
Right.
Is it going to be another heist kind of thing? Is it what are they going to do? So I'm looking forward to his show as something to flesh out that character, because I thought he served his purpose in this, but I kind of thought it was like, here's his introduction. He shoots a guy in the alley and then kind of redeems himself at the end of being not that selfish guy that's going to shoot someone in an alley in the back.
I have a theory, Mark, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I think what Cassian Andor could bring in is an element of Star Wars we don't really have, which is essentially an underground network of spies and how they came about and where their allegiance lies, and is it truly with the Republic or whatever, and it continues on, kind of like the Kingsman, if you've seen that, kind of like an independent body, kind of like that. And I think what you could do is he could be investigating something that's not even tied to the Empire. He could uncover something, which then, like I said, I keep wanting Star Wars. If it's going to play in the past, I want things to be connected to the future and not the future we already know. I want the future that's far future, meaning it's like, hey, along the way, he
lay some groundwork is what you're talking about.
Yeah, he stumbled upon something that is a much bigger deal, that is beyond the Sith, beyond something else, that we could then have elements laid there, and then when they reappear again in future projects, we're familiar with that agency or that organization, and that is laying groundwork for what this group is capable of doing, because I think he's more of a spy, and that has been an untapped part of Star Wars.
You know what you're describing in Star Trek, because I always bring that back in. That's Section 31 that you're talking about.
Yep,
because
absolutely, Charlie.
Section 31 came along in DS9, which was set in the 24th century. They then bounced it back to the 22nd century in Enterprise, and we saw the genesis of it. And then it was a huge part in the 23rd century in Star Trek Discovery, in the first season of that show. And now it's, and that gave us Michelle Yeoh's character, who may come upon again and keep things rolling. So yeah, it was the kind of thing like it's always been there. They're always absolutely in the shadows. They're pulling the strings. It's kind of like the Winter Soldier, and Hydra. It's always like, you know what? Well, history needs correcting. This thing needs, because that's what it was all about. And
necessary evil.
The necessary evil, and the Section 31 was launched. The main dude in it in DS9 was actor William Sadler, which everybody loves. William Sadler, he's awesome, and he was great in that role as Luther Sloan was the name of the character. So yeah, like a Section 31 for Star Wars. Yes. I'm interested.
So that might be a good place to put in some secrets that are in this movie, that are confirmed in this movie. And we talked about Rebels a little bit before. So we have I think General Syndulla mentioned.
Yep.
We see Chopper in a scene. We see the Ghost in
the big
two
scene.
different scenes, I believe.
Yeah,
Very
parked
on
and
Yavin.
flying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's some other stuff in there as well, but I just, because we mentioned Rebels before, those ones popped into my head. But this is a great movie for those. And I think the Ghost crew, like, I think originally they wanted them to actually be in this potentially, because I know that, they went as far as building Chopper, but I think they kind of moved on. But you just mentioned, you mentioned, we saw them flying. We saw them parked.
I think a reason that we may not have seen the Ghost crew is the show was ongoing,
right.
And they didn't want to necessarily compromise the fact that not everybody made it out of the show. Kanan didn't make it out of the show, and then Ezra disappears at the end of the show. And that would have been prior to this film, but Hera was still around, and then she had Kanan's love child. So so that would have been a whole thing. And then Hera is actually a big character in the comics. You see her in a lot of issues of Dr. Aphra. So more kind of intertwining things. But you're right. Todd made a good point, and I would agree that the Easter eggs and the tropes in this film didn't make you go ugh, except for the really bad CGI Leia, which was last shot, which I didn't care for.
Right.
But
so last shot you didn't care for. Any other favorite scenes that you did care for?
Storming on the beach.
Yeah,
that was a unique element that we hadn't seen before. It was a cool area to do that type of scene, and the subterfuge, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the entirety of the space battle, it was at its core Star Wars. But Mark, you and I are both X-Wing guys. We're crazy about the X-Wing, so that was all X-Wings all the livelong day. I love it that there was a Red 5 who was, and it's funny because I have the illustrated book. He was like Cadet so-and-so that he got killed off and died, but he had a spare helmet on the rack, obviously back at Yavin 4, and that's what Luke ended up with. He got this guy's call sign in his spare plane. Whoops.
Sloppy seconds.
I do.
That's what you can call this. You can call this episode that, Mark, because I was sloppy seconds. So
that's a little on the nose.
Never. I'm very happy that you're here. That beach scene is phenomenal. I also love basically when they're recruiting the people and they're going and they first meet Chirrut, and he's that scene where he takes down all the stormtroopers and then ducks, and the other guy takes him down with the machine gun kind of thing. And then K2 runs around the thing, or no, he shoots the other droid, and K2 then comes around and goes, "Did you know that wasn't me?" Just that one bit of sarcasm is so perfect, like you said, for the sassy droid bit. But I think that set it up so well as like, this droid's a little, there's something a little off about this one. But it also kind of shows like that disregard for droids that, again, we see in Solo, the like droid liberation, and like you treat us like interchangeable. Like, as much as the crew likes K2, like, did they know that wasn't him? You know what I mean? Like, it's going back into that droid kind of thing. Fellas, we're running short on time, so I do want to ask the overall importance in the Star Wars saga and where this ranks for you.
Man, oh man! I mean, I have to say it's funny because when you you have something this late in life that comes along. Great example. I mean, I married my wife April. She and I were both 37 years old. I had been married before, got married young, and it was a disaster. And don't even want to talk about the second one, but she was the game changer that came along and changed my life. And for me, after the prequels, and it was like, oh, I can't ever feel that I could ever take Star Wars serious again. This thing came along and made you think, this is everything that I loved about Star Wars. So to be honest with you, this comes along. And for me, I know Return of the Jedi is your favorite, Todd, but of my top three, this kicks Return of the Jedi out of there and takes the place as my number three. Because it would go Empire and then New Hope and then this. Hands down. This, nothing is perfect. Again, there were some tropes and some clunky dialogue, but there was everything in this that was different enough, yet similar enough to really make this work for me. I loved it. So yeah, 3 out of, what the hell do we have? 11 movies? 3 out of 11. 3 out of 11.
Todd, what about you? What's your overall importance for this one?
I think it's important not because of the story or what it contributed to that. I think it's important to Star Wars because it said, like I said, push Star Wars to be focusing on different things, not so focused on you have to bring in everything you've seen before, the characters you know. It proved that Star Wars can be successful without all those elements. So once again, I would like more of this, and I think it shows this is the proof case that you don't have to have Jedis. You don't have to have, the characters you already know or those touch points, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, a little bit at the end, but like I said, that was kind of irrelevant. So I think that's where it really matters, because ultimately this was a side story that didn't really have to happen. It wasn't essential, but it was really well done, and I think that makes it really stand out in regards to one of the best Star Wars from a quality standpoint that we've ever seen before. And I really appreciated that was good. That was made me so excited about what Star Wars would do. It's like, we're gonna have like the trilogy, but we're gonna do these side projects that can really tell unique stories and do their own thing and don't have to be reliant on the larger part of Star Wars. But I think it was cool, and I hope we get more of this as kind of the proof of existence of not having to rely on the past to be successful in the future. So I think it's good. This would probably be top 5 because I do like some of the fan service, like anybody said. This would probably be 4-ish, maybe 3 or 4 in that range, but definitely in the top 5.
Nice. Yeah, I have to mirror kind of what you guys said. Like, one character we didn't really bring up was Saw Gerrera, but I love that character, and seeing him in Clone Wars and again in Jedi Fallen Order, and that kind of thread of I'll say radicalization, and how you can just go straight down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, and how that contrasts to some other characters that we see in this movie or in other things that they keep that hope alive rather than going down that rabbit hole. And it's a very slippery slope, and I think an easy one to get down. So I love that character and the characterization that Forrest Whitaker brought to that character. And again, when you tie it into the other things that he's done, like how can this guy go from like the stuff that he did in Clone Wars and freeing the Wookiees and doing all this stuff to like this crazy dude in a cave that's like doesn't trust anyone, doesn't trust his own shadow. I love that kind of thing. But aside from that, yeah, it does show that you can have a few little interconnected threads, but also introduce brand new characters that don't have to tie into anything, like Todd said, that you can still care for. I know I'm pretty bad for this, but I prefer TV shows because I've said it before, you can spend all this time with these characters and it helps you care for them. That's why Mandalorian is now one of my favorite Star Wars character, if not my favorite character in Star Wars, even potentially passing Luke, which I never thought I'd say. But this movie showed that you can do that with characters in a movie format. You don't need 6 hour-long episodes or 2 seasons to get to know a character and to care for a character, because every single one of these characters, I cared when they died. It was impactful. It meant something. You knew the characters, you had a connection to them, and it was tragic every single time right up until the end. And like I said, for me to sit there and not care that Darth Vader just showed up on screen because the rest of the movie just rocked me to my damn core, that is something. Because I love lightsabers as much as anyone, and Darth Vader going through that hallway is one of the most arguably badass things we've ever seen in Star Wars. But the first time watching this in a theater, I couldn't have cared less that Darth Vader showed up, because the rest of the movie just rocked me to my core. Like, I had to go sit in my car and just like,
he had to have a cry,
just emotionally, just like, holy shit. And like I said, texting my cousin, like, oh my God, what a movie. And he's like, Darth Vader. And I was like, no, the rest of it. Like,
the movie.
Just anything other than that. But you know, like it is, I've talked about my own little order to watch the movies. We've talked about that a couple of times on the show. And this is usually the second one that I recommend. I recommend most people start with A New Hope to see where Star Wars started, and then immediately go to this. Because I do that. You see the thing happen, and then you go back and see how it happened. And that's a perfect example of this. But it's also such a great movie that you see that modern Star Wars can push the envelope while also paying homage to what Star Wars was, and fit into that era without having to stick to the limitations of that era. It's such a great movie. I don't know exactly where it falls into my list, probably around, like Todd said, probably, top 5, somewhere in there. But holy crap, what an amazing film. I wish more of the Star Wars stories were like this. I liked Solo, but I don't think it was as impactful as this.
Right.
But,
without a doubt. Without a doubt. Awesome. Good stuff, boys. Good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd, for joining us last minute. I know this was a scramble. We hit some scheduling issues, and I, you had said that it's one of your favorites. So I messaged Charlie and just said, like, let's get Todd, man. This is going to be fun.
He pulled it off. He pulled it off, and he didn't even say it was cool, or he didn't talk about pivots a lot. So I'm impressed.
Thank you for joining us, Todd. This was awesome. It's great to have everyone all together. This is a rare occurrence for the Secret Friends Unite family. So this was a special episode, not just because the movie's great, but because you were here. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me on. And Mark, you're giving Charlie like you're feeding his ego right now, because he's gonna we do another podcast, Mark.
Well, I was just gonna say, Charlie, tell everyone where they can find us and
who, me?
Find Todd and everything else.
Oh my gosh! Well, of course, Secret Friends is a wonderful, great big network, but of course, we are over on the Twitter at Secret Friends U. I am on Twitter at the C3. Just spell it out. I'm always talking about Star Wars, Star Trek, and Marvel Comics. I also run a great chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club here in Michigan, USS Grand Petoskey. You can find us on all those socials and that website. I also try to populate the Secret Friends Unite Facebook page when I am not driving somewhere for my job, which is increasingly a lot all the time. I travel. So I try to get in there and put some content, and if you like it, that's great. And if not, just throw garbage at me. It's okay.
Todd, where can people find you on the internet?
At the Oxtra is where I dwell, and I try to socialize and have a good time, and actually make connections for folks that can come on all of our shows. So definitely find me there. And then obviously Mark and I do co-op mode every other week, which is fantastic. And then Charlie and I just recorded Secret Friends Unite tonight, and we talked about the Batman with Luke Lore. So watch us there, and just for everything Secret Friends Unite, our website, secretfriendsunite.com.
It's
perfect.
It's all connected.
Absolutely. You can find me at @the_Canardian on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and probably other places that I'm forgetting right now. I'm starting to lose my voice again because I was sick earlier this week.
Ooh!
So, Charlie, wrap us up.
That's it, friends. As always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
May the Force be with you. Hello there, Kenobi! Rex, play us out. This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.